Welcome to OkState Daily. Casey Porter here, joined by Robbie Rainwater, as I am each and every week. Coach, what a weekend. Got to celebrate Cecil O'Brate and the wonderful donation he made for O'Brate Stadium. It was super fun to see all. You know that he was shining down looking at that crowd at O'Brate and just so happy about that. Got a sweep at home. Cincinnati is a good team. They have one arm after the other. That's 95. They have good athletes. Mm-hmm. They hit the ball well. Overall, just a really good weekend for the Cowboys.
It was. And, going back to what you were saying to start with Cecil O'Brate, and, they were talking on the telecast. Coach Holliday was talking about how, his life mission centered around helping people who needed help, right? And, just looking at the number of kids that get help through the programs that universities offer, whether it be athletics or academics or research-based type things, you can't help but think how proud he was, and obviously how proud OSU is of the stadium and the program that benefits the kids within that program. So, yeah, just a great weekend to kind of celebrate that and celebrate Mr. O'Brate, who obviously over the last 4 or 5 years had a huge impact on OSU baseball. So, but yeah, going to the series, just, like you said, Cincinnati's a very good ball club, and
they're going to get better too.
And they're going to get better. And one of the things that, you hear Coach Holliday talked about it over and over, and I'm talking, when I say Coach Holliday, I'm talking about Tom Holliday talk about over and over and over again, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, is that when you start getting, universities and baseball programs involved in Power 5 conferences that are in major league states, when you have a university that's in a state that has a major league baseball team in it, there's a lot of baseball being played. There's a lot of good baseball being played. So, look for Cincinnati to get better and better each year moving into the Big 12 and being a part of what Coach Holliday was talking about of a very baseball-rich area. So great series for OSU, great to get a sweep and stay towards the top of the Big 12 standings and look to continue that momentum moving forward.
Boy, it didn't look very good there going towards the later innings of that first game. And then I'll be darned if, we always talk about whenever you're struggling or whatever, or it just seems like things are flat, we talk about, first of all, getting that first run. If you don't get that first run, that tension mounts in the dugout. So we like to get that first run any way you can. Bunt them over, move them over, hit a flat, any small ball, whatever you have to do, get that first run, get that tension out of the dugout. Didn't get it. And so going into the later innings, man, at that point, you just got to have one of your dudes just say, you know what, I'm going to start some momentum for this team. Let's go, boys. Let's get it going. Zach Earhart.
Yeah. And, some of that goes, I was thinking, right after that eighth inning, I was thinking about how we've talked a lot in this podcast about, the roles and inside and up and down the lineup, and where you're positioned in the lineup sometimes dictates what your role is and that sort of thing. And sometimes that momentum is created just because of the circumstance that you've got a leadoff top guy leading off an inning, right? And instead of starting off an inning with your middle of your lineup or whatever the case is. So it set up perfectly in that eighth inning that you got Zach Earhart leading off the inning. And then who better to come up to get a sacrifice fly than Lane Forsythe, right? And those are two guys that we've talked about over. And I think we've talked about those two guys as much as we talked about Benj and Schubert and maybe some of those bigger names. We've talked about Earhart and Forsythe.
Because they're equally as value.
They're equally as value. And going back to what we talked about last podcast of that, your prospects, your major league prospects, your high draft picks, or whatever the case is, what's great about college, in my opinion, is that those guys sometimes don't have any more success than the guys that aren't the prospects, right? The guys that are coming in and being the role players and doing the dirty work as far as, getting the base hits, nothing glorifying, right? But it's great to see those type of guys have those success and have their name in the paper, so to speak, on starting an inning and ending an inning and being a huge part of the comeback and the rally and getting the momentum shifted towards OSU side.
We have seen a guy in his very first varsity at bat hit a grand slam, which I believe when he came around third, your comment to him was, got to retire right now. And can only go. The only place he can go from here is downhill, right?
Quit right now. Just okay. Cross home plate and go straight to the locker room and head out to the parking lot.
Your career is now officially over. Got to finish on that, right? Okay, so, hey, we've been in this game a long time, man. Like, 70 years combined, something like that, 80 years, something combined, something like that. A long time coaching, playing, all that. Not sure I've ever seen a walk-off grand slam. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know that I've ever. You don't see very many grand slams to begin with, much less a walk-off grand slam. So that was incredible. And again, just throughout that game, had two different sacrifice flies throughout the game to tie it up and to extend or whatever the case is, and then to hit that grand slam at the end. That's one of the things that I put down as part of the notes as I was trying to refresh is kind of everything that you needed to know about the series happened Friday. Right. Yeah. Everything, no matter whether you're talking about good things in Saturday or Sunday, everything that you needed to know about that series can be summed up
for this team
in what happened Friday. And that is that you got a great start from Garcia, right? And he probably got extended, a little bit further than what they probably wanted him to. And then you get Kranz. That's fine. And then you get Kranz that comes in and just shuts the door. Going back to what we've talked about, and specifically in the last podcast about how this bullpen provides the relief and the reassurance for this ball club and the fan base or whoever it is that they're not only able to come in and calm the storm in a difficult situation, but they're also able to go out there and start an inning and not get in trouble. Yeah, and right. I think you saw that this weekend, and you saw that on Friday. That exemplified everything that happened throughout the weekend. In that your bullpen comes in and calms the storm, gets out of a situation, gets the momentum back on OSU's side to go in and have a great eighth inning to tie it up. And the one guy that I want to mention as kind of my player of the week or whatever you want to call it, player of the weekend, is Charlie Carter.
Yes.
We haven't talked a lot about him, but one thing that in going back to what we were just talking about of how this bullpen provides the relief and reassurance for this club, how much relief and reassurance does Charlie Carter provide the bullpen and the guys coming in that they can throw a full count curveball in the dirt with the guy on third base?
However many they want.
Throw it wherever you want to in the dirt. Charlie Carter's going to block it. And it's huge.
And not only that, just visually, you're like, oh, he smothered the crap out of that. It wasn't even close to get. It's like, it's total confidence.
Yeah. And it's right there. Right. Yeah, when he blocks, it's right there. He's not blocking it, shooting off to the side. He blocks.
It didn't look lucky. Right, it doesn't look. It just looks like, well, okay, well, that's just what he does.
And it's over and over and over again. And I don't think that he gets enough recognition. Talk about, I think last time we were talking about how Sam Garcia kind of is under the radar and moving through it quietly and dominating every Friday. I think the same thing about Charlie Carter. And that's not to take anything away from Ian Doherty or anybody else, but Charlie Carter in what he provides defensively, because I started thinking, you around the clubhouse or the locker room or on the field, whatever the case is, you have this group of people that's providing relief or reassurance for this group of people, and talking about the bullpen and saying, how great they've been this year of providing that relief and reassurance for the rest of the ball club. Who's there to provide the reassurance and relief for the bullpen, right?
Yeah,
and the answer is Charlie Carter. Charlie freaking Carter, right? And he is doing an outstanding job of providing that reassurance and that wall of defense, right?
Because these pitchers, Robert Kranz and Tommy Molsky, they need to be able to bury that curveball.
They need to be able to, right? Yeah. And with the ball club that, with a bullpen that has as much movement and much sink on their pitches as they do, you've got to have somebody like that. And so it's just very impressive. And anybody that's been around the game for very long knows how difficult of a task that is and how great of a job he's doing back there. And just wanted to make sure that, we recognize that and call out his name, because I think he's been doing that all year long. Mm-hmm. And with no recognition. And people that just watch TV leisurely or watch ball games leisurely or watching OSU every now and again playing baseball, they may go, how in the heck do you get in the lineup hitting sub 100? Well, I can tell you how. Watch him play defense, right? Yeah. And so, anyway, I think, for me, that just came to more fruition or more light this weekend of how consistently good he is behind the plate defensively and how much reassurance he provides, whether it's Kranz or Holiday or whoever it is, to be able to bury those pitches no matter what the situation, no matter where the runners are on base, no matter what the count is. Charlie Carter's getting it done.
You mentioned the bullpen, and it always gets overlooked because the walk-offs are awesome, the sac flies, the hits, and all that. Comebacks always start with your bullpen stringing up zeros.
Yeah.
And it's in the face of, oh, man, this game's getting away from us. You have zero momentum, so you're having to create your own momentum. Boy, give Robert Kranz a ton of credit for just, like you say, stabilizing the game, but stringing enough zeros to give your offense time to catch up.
Yeah, and I think that both sides of the coin you could see in the last 2 weekends, right? And you go back to the 1910 ball game against OU, right? Mm-hmm. And that we were able to continue to get runs, but we kept chasing, right? And that we weren't able to really close the gap very big in that game because we would score a couple, they would score a couple, and we could chase. What you saw this weekend is exactly what you're talking about, and that is come in, calm the storm, shut the door, and allow us time to get caught up, right? Yep. And that's what you saw. And OSU's kind of been that way all year long. They'd start out, get a couple runs early in the first couple 3 innings, and kind of go lull for 4 or 5 innings, and then do something late. And that's kind of been their motto here this season sometimes. And so, but yeah. Being able to, again, come in and shut the door and be able to go in the dugout and actually tell your guys, because the old adage is chip away, chip away, chip away.
Yeah, right.
There's no such thing as a 6-run at bat, right? Go out there.
We've all said all that stuff, yeah.
But it's hard. It's hard to get in that mindset if you continue to give up runs on the defensive side, right?
Yeah, right.
And so you're not really chipping away if you're just having to score 2 runs to keep even of where you were last inning. And so, the Robert Kranz and Molsky and any of those guys being able to come in and shut the door, calm the storm, and actually turn the momentum before you ever get to the plate by saying, we can go in and actually chip away right here. If we score a run or 2 here, we're right back in the ball game. So, just very impressive, and nothing new that we haven't talked about with our bullpen and our pitching staff, just going out there and consistently getting it done on a game-by-game basis.
I want to give Donovan LaSalle a shout-out as well. Hey, got the hit in the 10th inning to get things started. That was absolutely huge. Avi Ortiz also absolutely money since the beginning of the OU series. Had a good night Friday night and got a lot of things started for the Cowboys there. Then also we mentioned, Coach, that, hey, never seen necessarily a walk-off grand slam. Not sure I've ever seen a grand slam in 2 consecutive innings either. Moving to Saturday, of course, you had the walk-off grand slam Friday night. Then Aiden Meola got things started real well on Saturday with the grand slam in the 1st inning.
Yeah, and neither one of them was wind-dated, by the way.
No.
Both balls were squared up, and who better? Who would you rather, if somebody was to ask you, bases loaded in the bottom of the 10th inning in a tie ball game, who would you rather have to come plate than Lane Forsythe, right? And to hit that grand slam, that walk-off grand slam. And there's names that you could throw out there, but nobody that you or I anyway, nobody on this podcast is going to argue Lane Forsythe coming up and getting the job done, especially with him, like we talked about earlier, him already having 2 sacrifice flies earlier in the game, to either chip away like we were just talking about, or to tie the ball game, whatever the case is. And so it's set up perfect for him to, come to the plate and that senior leadership that he provides and understanding the situation of what is needed at that at bat. We talked about a couple of podcasts ago of understanding the situation. And if you get a pitch up in the zone and you need a sacrifice fly, hit it. And I think that's what you saw from him this weekend.
Yep,
right?
No doubt.
He knew the situation.
And the baseball god shined on him.
That's right. And he knew the situation. He knew what was needed. And his pitch selection was great. Now, obviously, on the Grand Slam, maybe a different type scenario there. But being able to go up there and have a quality at-bat, 3 at-bats in a row that was run producing. It was great to see him have the opportunity to put the game away himself.
So Aiden Meola has the grand slam to start game 2 off, and then Sunday, it was the most Aiden Meola game of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude gets the offense jump-started. Cowboys get down 2-0. It's like, oh, man, it's kind of a little flat start to the offense. He bangs one opposite field for a home run to get the offense jump-started. Then he hits an RBI double late in the game to extend the lead to 4-2 at that time. Then later in the game, he gets 2 strikes on him, bases loaded, and he's not thinking home run. He's just thinking, hey, I'm going to figure out a way to get the bat on the ball. He shortens up his stroke and bangs one up the middle. That is just so Aiden Meola. I mean, he's just such a good player.
Yeah. Are you talking about the first baseman, Aiden Meola, or the second baseman?
Yes, whichever one. Yeah.
I mean, it's what we've talked about him all season long is just plug him in, put him wherever you want to, and he's going to get the job done, right?
Yep.
And that doesn't mean he's not going to have slumps and streaks like everybody else, but my gosh, wouldn't be afraid to put him behind the plate if you needed to put him behind the plate. He would find a way to get the job done, and so, just fun watching him produce, and no matter where he's at. And, I think it was the Friday game where he gets a kind of almost a routine ground ball, and he ends up throwing it on the run and throws it about 107 across the infield, it looked like. But very fun to watch Aiden Meola play, and the type of ball player that he is, and just enjoys playing the game, right? And I think that's kind of you had a interview with Max Hewitt not too long ago talking about those sorts of things, of that when you're playing at this level, you have to love playing the game of baseball.
Can't fake it.
This can't be something that you enjoy sometimes. I mean, this is a job, right? When you're a college athlete, it is a job. It's all day long, every day, whether it's playing a game or practicing or working out or staying fresh, whatever the case is. And it just seems like Aiden Meola, there's not very many guys that enjoy playing the game more than Aiden Meola does. And to see him have the success that he has and produce in the right moments and in big moments, right, is very impressive to watch.
Brian Holiday got the ball on Saturday. We know how competitive he is. My opinion, Brian Holiday is the epitome of what this team has become. He's tough, he's gritty, he's competitive, he's excited to play, he's excited to compete, he's fearless, and obviously he's very good as well. So all but one outing this year, he's gone at least 6 innings. He has 64 strikeouts, just 9 walks. That's a 7-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. Brian Holiday is I think you could say he's the face of this team, just the way that he operates. Yeah,
and I think what you're seeing from him, and again, it was good. We talked about this last weekend too. Is good to kind of see him stay in that 90 pitch range.
Yes,
and throw 6 quality innings and get out and get somebody in. I think it's good to kind of get him freshened up a little bit. He obviously threw a little bit better this weekend than he did last weekend, but I think you are still seeing a little hangover of maybe a little bit of dead arm, not dead arm to the point of him not being able to pitch anymore, right? But just,
and there's a bigger book on him too.
Yeah, he just needs freshened up a little bit, right? He's been the workhorse all year long and had to throw a lot of innings, and it's his turn to take a break. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's his turn to get some relief and get some short outings and keep his pitch count down so that he can stay fresh for the rest of the run of the season. So yeah, just him being like you said, somewhat of the face of the program for the first half of the season and being the workhorse. Good to see him go back out and have a quality outing and quality start again. And again, the game Saturday, the wind's blowing out 20 miles an hour again.
Yeah, right.
So it seems like Brian Holiday is getting a little bit of mistreatment on the weather side of he's getting to pitch the days where the wind's blowing hard and straight out. But that's okay. That's okay. He can handle it, right? Yeah. And so he's just continue to be very impressed with watching him pitch, and along with Sam Garcia or anybody else that's going to the mound. But like I said, I think more than anything for me, what was glaring to me for him was it's his turn to start getting some rest, right? Yep. And it wouldn't even hurt to see him, be on a 75 pitch count or something. As good as our bullpen is, we can afford it, right? Especially on a Saturday. And it's deep. And so it's his turn to get some quality rest and quality relief and make sure that he's ready to go for the late run of the season.
You mentioned Charlie Carter. I was super excited to see Ian Doherty. Usually he's the guy that is asked to execute offensively. Hey, hit behind a runner, hit a sacrifice fly ball, bunt if you needed to. super excited to see him get in the middle of the driving in runs action. Had a huge home run yesterday to put the Cowboys up 4-2, and it was an absolute bomb. Ian Doherty does, just like Charlie Carter, he receives the ball very well. Pitchers trust they can throw any pitch they want to him. We saw him throw a runner out against OU, so super happy for Ian Doherty.
Yeah, how impressive is it that, to start the season, that was your number 2 and number 3 catchers?
Yes, right.
And that whether it was Ian Doherty the 2 or Charlie Carter the 2, doesn't matter. You're talking about your number 2 and number 3 catchers that are doing very, very well behind the plate and at the plate for, Ian Doherty. And Charlie Carter, it's not like, I think Charlie Carter his average, is not indicative of the at-bats he has.
Sure.
Right? I mean, he fouls off a lot of pitches. He hits the ball.
Same with Ian.
He squares the ball up, and, he gets the ball into the outfield. And so I think his stats aren't real indicative of the at-bats he has. But, yeah, just, I love watching, the rotation back behind the plate there and seeing what those guys are going to provide. I love watching them defensively. And I don't know that I've been able to say that in a long time watching baseball, of how fun going into the game knowing that I want to see the defensive side of the catcher because they're so impressive back there. And I don't know that I've ever said that about a baseball game. Like, oh, I'm excited to watch Charlie Carter go block this pitch. You know what I mean? Because of what we've talked about is that how impressive the pitches that the pitchers are throwing with the movement and the velocity, and how easy he's making it look, and that balls aren't just ricocheting all over the place. He's blocking balls and are staying right there. And so it's and Ian Doherty doing the same thing. And so very impressive. I love watching those guys play and watching them behind the plate and what they're offering defensively, and anything that they're able to provide offensively at the plate is just icing on the cake.
It is. It is. Colin Brigham, he's that guy that, hey, he's probably going to punch a couple times a game. But yet, if you can get that one home run like the Cowboys did to tie the game on Sunday, just that one big hit with that one big slug per game, that's all you're really looking for in Colin Brigham. And sometimes you get more than that, but that's really the baseline you're looking for him. Yeah,
and now after this weekend, tied for the lead in home runs in the Big 12, I think. And so good to see him kind of get going again a little bit and squaring the ball up a little bit more and getting the ball to, the pull side a little bit more than what he probably has been, and squaring one up over the center field wall. And so, like you said, him providing that one big at bat per game in the middle of the lineup is huge. And obviously those guys that you have in the lineup to be your power guys, you're not going to get that every at bat. As much as we hate to see the strikeouts and that sort of thing, it's
a trade-off.
That comes with the territory, right? Yep. And that one big home run that they hit, or two that Brigham hits this weekend, I think, right? Come at the expense sometimes of some strikeouts, or maybe
you got to be aggressive to hit the ball like that.
You've got to be aggressive to hit the ball like that. And if you're aggressive like that, the strikeouts are going to come with it. So, good to see him kind of get back on track with a long ball, and hopefully he can continue. Hopefully his slump is over, right?
Yeah.
And he's kind of slumped here for the last, 10, 12, 14 ball games, and it's time for him to have his turn. So it was good to see that this weekend from him.
When Colin Ritchie hits one to the pull side, it's like, oh, yeah, that's gone.
Yeah. It's not even close. Right?
It's not.
I mean, you almost don't even have to watch it. Just close your eyes.
You don't. You want to watch it because it's so fun, but it's like, oh, that's gone.
But if you just hear it and you go, yep, that's gone. It's kind of like there was a time that we were coaching together where we were
didn't sound good.
Didn't sound good, right? It wasn't good for the Blue Jays, right? So
what happened? I don't know, but it didn't sound good. So that was awfully loud, going off his bat,
right? And so that's kind of like whether it's Richie or Brigham or those guys, it just sounds different. We talked about that with Wolford, a couple of podcasts ago. So when he hits to the pull side, when he pulls the ball to right center, he hits the ball really hard. And so going to be very impressive to see him in the leadoff spot, right?
Yeah, and playing different positions defensively.
Holy cow, just the versatility that these guys have. And I'll be honest with you, it was somewhat frustrating at the beginning of the year. It's like, can we not get a consistent lineup so that you guys can be consistent? I just think it speaks to the versatility of the kids that's on the team. And
the trust that Josh shows in them.
And the trust that Josh shows them, and just plug them in, right? Like we've talked about Meola or whoever, just plug them in and put them in a lineup wherever, right? Colin Ritchie can be anywhere from the 1 hole to the 5 hole. And we've talked about that with Zach Earhart too, anywhere from the 1 hole to the 4 hole. And these guys are just having success up and down the lineup, regardless of where they're being plugged in. It's just next man up, plug them in, and they're going to have success. So very fun to watch. That, and I've quit trying to guess what the lineup's going to look like, and don't even care anymore because the versatility of the kids and them being able to go out and compete, and regardless of where they're put in the lineup, or maybe they're not in the lineup and they get inserted in a pinch hit role and are able to be successful. So anyway, just that speaks testament to the program that Coach Holliday's running, and the environment that he's creating, like we've talked about on numerous,
like Max talked about.
Yeah, like we've talked about on numerous occasions.
By the way, Max said exactly what you said about the culture of OSU last weekend.
Yeah, just being able to create those individual competitions within the team concept that allows kids to be successful whenever they're called upon. And I think you see that just as a prime example of Colin Ritchie had been out for the last couple of 3 games, I think, and maybe had a pinch hit here or two here and there. But
Jackson Kroll's kind of that same guy too.
And just all of a sudden just gets plugged in the leadoff spot for the first time. And so, and then he hits a home run. So it's just, and his first at bat backs the guy up to the wall at center field.
Yeah,
and so, anyway, just again, speaks testament to the program and the versatility and the trust that this coaching staff has in the kids, and how fun that they're having just playing the game.
So we're approaching 30 minutes of this podcast, Coach, and we haven't even talked about Nolan Schubert yet. I mean, that tells you where this team's at right now, right? I mean, you can go almost 30 minutes talking about all the good things they're doing, and you haven't even mentioned one of the premier college baseball hitters in the country. That's impressive.
Yeah, but and this isn't – don't take this comment as a knock on Nolan Schubert. It's – the reason why we haven't is because he's not outshining the rest of the guys.
Correct.
Right? I mean, he's not doing anything that Lane Forsythe's not doing. He's not doing anything that Zach Earhart's not doing. He's not doing anything that Carson Benj isn't doing. And just looking at the totality of what is being offered to this team, he's not doing anything offensively that Charlie Carter isn't doing defensively.
Correct. Yes.
If that makes sense. And so, it just speaks volumes to the versatility and the quality of kids that is in this program. Is that goes back to what we've said, is that kids that are young, that maybe not major league prospects right now, or maybe they're a junior or senior and not a major league prospect, are producing at the same level as one of the premier players in the country, right?
And he is, absolutely is.
Absolutely is. And so it's just, it goes back to what we've talked about over and over and over again. And the guys that I like, yes, it's fun watching Nolan Schubert square up a baseball and hit it 5 miles, right?
But he's also okay with dumping one into center field for an RBI.
That's correct. But what I like watching, and what I think speaks volumes to this club, is what we've talked about over and over again: the Lane Forsythes, the Jackson Krolls, the Zach Earharts, those type of guys.
That's the coach in you.
It goes back to, that's everybody that I was ever around. I didn't play with major. I did play with.
That's who all of us who didn't have a whole lot of talent. That's who we tried to play.
That's correct. I had a teammate in high school that ended up making it to major leagues, but he was a rarity. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, but 99.9% of the guys that I played baseball with were, a dime a dozen, just like I was, So it's fun to see those guys have success at the same rate as the Nolan Schuberts and that sort of thing. And my gosh, when he does get hot, and he's getting close, right? He's getting close to getting real hot. And when he does, then maybe this conversation turns that, well, maybe he is providing something that everybody else isn't, But as
he's the one I think has the highest ceiling to do that.
Absolutely. And again, all that being said is not a knock on Nolan Schubert. Nope. It's just that at this level, and what you're seeing on a consistent basis, is the reason why we haven't mentioned his name up until now on this podcast, is because the guys that aren't as high, have the highest ceiling as Nolan Schubert does, are just as productive, if not more productive, than he is right now. And so no doubt. That's very encouraging and very fun to watch.
Tell you one guy that is going to be in the professionals, of course, it's always barring injuries. Anytime you say anything in baseball, especially for a pitcher, it's always injuries notwithstanding. Tommy Molsky is going to play professional baseball for a long time. He is exactly what the professionals look for, man. He's high velo. He's super impressive. He's just wild enough to where as a hitter, you're like, oh, damn, I don't know where this ball is going, right? Okay, so, and then he uses that just wildness enough to his advantage. And then he has that just dirty slider that all the professionals are throwing. The 3 sliders he threw in a row to the shortstop for Cincinnati with the bases loaded, nobody out, got out of it unscathed. That was as impressive of a pitching sequence and performance. I can't remember one more impressive that I can think of recently.
Wasn't even close.
No, it was not close.
I mean,
that shortstop left after those 3 sliders in a row and just went.
He wasn't
even mad.
He wasn't in within 3 foot of that pitch.
No, he was not.
You know, and it's like almost like, has this guy ever seen a slider before? Which he has, but not one like that.
No.
You know, and sometimes I wish the guys like Molsky with their first pitch they would throw one halfway off the backstop on purpose.
Sometimes on purpose.
Right. And then the next
just
one
kind of smile.
It just break off that slider in somebody the next pitch. So that
was Ryan Herman territory the way he's throwing that slider.
Yeah,
right?
I've seen that before. I've seen it firsthand. And so, but yeah. There's nothing I'm going to say right now that I hadn't said about Tommy Molsky. I've said all along that he's the guy that I like watching the most. And even saying that, I think some of that is because I want to see Tommy Molsky throw every game. You know what I mean? And so, but yeah, whether it's Kranz or Molsky and those guys, but yeah, he's dirty. And like you said, just wild enough that he throws one squirrely every now and again, or it runs in a little bit more than it should.
He hit the first hitter, so after one hitter he had faced, he had the bases loaded, nobody out.
Perfect.
And it's like, perfect.
Yeah.
Exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Because
we got a base open, hit him. And make the next
don't
three
miss them.
Make sure the next 3 guys see that and that they're thinking about that when they walk up to the plate. He just drilled this guy, on the first pitch that he throws. Then he strikes out the next 3 in a row, right? And so
I don't know where the next pitch is going. I have no earthly idea. No.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't dig in if I were you.
My job is to throw it south. My job isn't to dictate where it goes. Type
the
mentality.
only thing I think the only thing negative you could say, and this isn't against any one person, that number 3 starting spot. Got to get that. Yeah. If you're going to make it to the World Series, if you're going to be a serious contender, you got to have 3 starters that you can rely on.
Yeah. Are we getting in a situation where continuing to have Gabe Davis throw the 3rd game is messing with his confidence?
Yeah,
we need to get, and I say we like I've got any.
This is not questioning anybody. This is just a conversation.
This is where we're at right now with a particular individual, and where can we. What situation can we put him in to maximize his success, right? Yeah. Because it doesn't matter.
Which I can understand why they did it at the starter, because they weren't getting 2 outings out of him anyways over the weekend. So you might as well get a start out of him, see how you can ride. And then he had that 5-inning performance against Arkansas. So they absolutely made the right move going with what they've done with him.
Yeah, but I think we're in a situation now where, is it going to get any better for him if he continues to lack confidence in his ability of what he's been able to do over the last 3 starts, right?
Yeah, right.
Does it need to be a midweek start where he can get some more confidence and that sort of thing, and insert Kiesel back into that spot, or whoever else,
Dominic Reed, Reed, or even Molsky, maybe
whoever. But I think they're in a situation now where we've got to find a way to get him some confidence, right? And him being game 3 starter and being pulled after 2 innings, the last 3 starts or whatever it's been, isn't a real confidence booster for somebody, right? And so,
and he's for this team to make their expectations, their goals, Gabe Davis has to be a huge part of it.
It's correct. And that doesn't mean that Gabe Davis can pitch the same amount of innings that he's been producing on the weekend. He can do that on the weekend still, just in a different role, right? And so he was
just a conversation to have, and I'm sure they're having it. Yeah.
And he was 2 innings yesterday, and then maybe a little over 2 innings the last week against OU, and so he can give that many innings in the bullpen role, right? And maybe be more effective, whatever the case is. But I think we need to get him in a spot where he can gain some more confidence before. Putting him back in that starting role, or put him in a starting role in the midweek game, because it's not like your midweek games are any easier, right?
Right. Dallas Baptist
coming up, and
huge game, by the way.
Yeah, huge game. So anyway, obviously, you talk about ceiling when you talk about Nolan Schubert. How big is Gabe Davis' ceiling when he figures it out, right? And just got
and he will figure it out, not if.
And just got to get him in a situation where he can be successful and build some confidence, because he's only going to get better.
Yep. Hey, Coach, it's been a really fun show. It's always fun to talk about sweeps like the Cowboys got last weekend, so thank you so much for joining. And I want to thank everybody else out there for tuning in to OkState Daily for our latest episode on baseball and the big sweep over Cincinnati. So thank you so much for tuning in, and go Pokes!
Go Pokes!